Hey guys, it's week 39 and I've got huge news. Dropboard is live as a standalone app and it's been accepted into the Wix marketplace. So this is a big milestone for me and I'm going to talk in my video this week about some of the reasons that I feel that way. Let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, I am now live on the Wix marketplace, I'm live on the Shopify marketplace, and I'm live as a standalone app. It's called Dropboard, and it's about a really simple and empathetic hiring system. In Wix, I'm getting a little bump right now because I'm listed in their newest apps. So some signups have actually started already coming in, and I'm kind of wondering if that's because of that placement or if people are finding me in other ways. That is kind of to be determined. This is a perfect example of just-in-time building. I have not built any of the email sequences for onboarding for these people. Now that I actually have some customers coming in, this is the prime time to build that functionality. So I want to reach out to them when they sign up and basically say, hey, my name's Colin, I created this product and I'd love to hear your feedback. What's working for you? What concerns, questions do you have? I want to get in there and just get as much feedback as I can. Even if I can't save people as customers who may not end up buying, I want to know why they chose Dropboard. And by doing this now, instead of, which it's a bit of a rush now because I have people waiting who I want to get in contact with, but by doing it now, I've saved a lot of time in the earlier development by not building it then. And then also when I'm writing these emails now, I've got somebody in mind that I'm actually communicating with. So it's going to be a lot more authentic. It's going to roll off my tongue a lot easier. Another part of that onboarding, what I want to do is if somebody actually does purchase or at least gets a job board out there, I want to congratulate them and then also maybe see if I can get a review out of them because that's going to be a huge piece for keeping that momentum going with my app. And Dropboard is now a live standalone SaaS app. Traditional SaaS app. I'm really liking the way that the marketing has turned out. And although I'd like to have a better promo teaser video like I did with New Teammate, that just takes quite a while to put together, so I'm not quite there yet. And I've also reworked my Colin Make Software homepage to showcase the products that I'm working on a little bit more prominently, a little bit more cleanly. I've talked a lot in my videos about some of the hacks and shortcuts I've taken, and one of the biggest ones was using Airtable as my backend database and Replit as my servers. One of the really nice advantages I'm seeing right now as people are starting to sign up is I created a automation that when a new organization record shows up in Airtable, it sends me an email. So now I have real-time notifications of people signing up, which was a lot easier to do than having to build something myself. Similarly, I'm going to be using Airtable's interfaces features where you can basically build a dashboard for your data. So that'll be really helpful in tracking this progress. And again, that's something I would have had to build myself or figure out some other way to do it. By having everything in Airtable makes it super easy to get that going. So now that Dropboard is live and is purchasable, I am contacting some of those customers that are potential customers that I reached out to weeks and weeks ago in my last series of outreach they're kind of been warmed up, and I'm now reaching back out to them to see if I can get them to convert to Dropboard for free because I really still just want some feedback. So I'm waiting to hear back on those. The best thing right now is that when I do outreach or do marketing or any kind of push for Dropboard, I now feel I can talk a lot more confidently about my product because it is end-to-end ready. That brings me to a marketing and sales update. So now that I'm kind of back on that push because I've got a product out there, I gotta say it's a lot easier. Now that, don't, Kitty, don't. You can sit with me if you want to. Now that Dropboard is live, it's made going back to outreach a lot easier. And I think that's because of this. Until you have a purchasable product out there, it feels like you're pushing a rock up a hill. And if you take any break, if you stop moving, your whole progress is at zero. Your momentum is at zero. This reinforces that feeling of never wanting to turn away from building features and building the product up. It's another reason why you want your MVP to be really tight so that you can move on to getting the audience and getting people to use your product. Once you have something people can actually pay for, you've at least created the potential for success. So people may not flock to it, but at least you've got something where people can actually sign up and get going with it. So while you may not have traction yet, you at least have the possibility of somebody walking up and buying. And your first interested buyers are worth a ton. It just makes you feel more confident, more controlled to go back and focus on that marketing, that outreach. So on that note, this week I spent a lot of time posting in communities and participating in conversations. I posted Dropboard to several Reddit communities that allow that sort of thing where you can share what you're working on. I talked with some people in my founders group on Slack called MicroConf connect. And I got some permission from some companies to ask them some research questions about their hiring process. And the biggest thing I did this week was I posted a long form content piece on indie hackers. And I decided to do it about how I'm using Airtable and Replit to save money, because I feel like it's a really unique thing that I'm doing and it's been super beneficial. And so it felt like a right thing to share. This took me a long time and it reminds me of why I don't do this very often. As fast as I am at building, I am very slow at generating content. And this is okay, and I'm trying to remind myself of that I need to remember that I'm about 0.1x speed when I'm doing that kind of thing, when I'm doing marketing, outreach, content generation, and I'm much, much faster on the building and the product side of things. And that's just the way that my talents lay out, so that's just what I'm dealing with. It's the hand that I've been dealt. And this reminds me of a conversation I had this week with someone. I'm limited in my sales and marketing expertise, but I have been doing startups since 2006. Not only have I done a lot of work of hitting the streets and gained some hard-won lessons, but I've also had the pleasure of working with co-founders who are good at this stuff and seeing Mailshake go from zero to a real growth machine. My limited education here has brought me an insight. I am not confident in my abilities enough to pronounce this too emphatically, so please take this with a huge grain of salt. In my experience, no one really knows what's going to work. I think great marketers are really good at knowing how to try things and doubling down when they see something work. Putting aside those who have a pre-built audience, I don't think great marketers have some secret to blowing things up. I think they just recognize value when they see it and they know how to jump on it. Because I don't really have a built-in audience, I rely a lot on community-driven posts like Indie Hackers, Hacker News, Reddit, and so forth. And sometimes you'll share something and it blows the F up and you're like, what? Okay. And it's happened to me a few times, not very many, but most of the time it's just crickets, or it's like just a few insights here and there. It's just like a slow, steady progression. There's lots of factors that can make this the way it is, including, how you position your headline, the way you came about your topic, and 1,000 other considerations. But putting those aside and making sure you've checked those basic boxes, I don't think anybody can explain why some things work and some things don't. So I think that brings me back to my insight, which is, you just have to try and just keep improving. Ignore the sunk cost, just go for it, put something out there, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. Try to let it roll off your back when you've worked really hard on something. While we're on the topic of marketing, I wanted to share a tweet. I had a really nice conversation. At the end of it, I was asked any particular advice for a product manager / engineer to jump into marketing. And so I responded back with these two big things, I think. One is study great products and debug them like you would JavaScript. So go to products that you love, try to figure out why they made certain decisions. How do these products look similar? What patterns are you noticing in the marketing? And then the other one is plan to write a lot of iterations of copy and just work towards that progress. Progress here is better than perfection. You can change your marketing 1,000 times. And I think just the act of writing it that many times makes you a better marketer, makes you think better about your product in terms of its value to people. I want to talk about AI for a second. I've been following AI sort of casually over the past several years, and I've watched so many apps add AI-powered features. Most of the time has felt like gimmicks to me. But something happened this week that has changed my position on AI. A thing called ChatGPT came out this week and has blown the internet up with its capabilities of how good AI has gotten. That coming out sort of forced me to take another look at this and just dive back into it. And I had a major reaction this week to it, and I want to share. For the first time, I feel like I have witnessed the leap that AI has made. The general purpose intelligence of GPT right now is kind of blowing my mind, and it has crossed a line from, the AI did something kind of interesting there, to like, whoa, this is good. I remember way back, 2006-ish, when Amazon released S3, which is a storage API for basically uploading and downloading and hosting files. And I remember immediately feeling the repercussions of that and how it was going to totally change what I was going to be able to build. It was really inspiring. This week was another moment just like that. A new kind of tech is available to solo devs like me that is going to totally change how they can build apps and the capabilities of those apps. So one night this week, I barely slept. I was just absolutely spinning with how this AI that I've been playing with now could affect Dropboard and take it to a whole new place. When I was researching applicant tracking systems earlier this year, when I was doing my product discovery, there were a lot of times when I found myself facing these big companies and being like, well, I can't compete on this, I can't compete on that, so where can I carve out myself? And in terms of certain pieces of that puzzle, that is blown away. I've just leapfrogged a major way up if I can figure out how to use this AI properly. It's still a little early for me to fully understand this impact, but I am lit on this. It's totally jump-started a whole new level of excitement for me. I've got so many ideas for expanding Dropboard that I'm now just waiting in this, and I've got to kind of figure out what to do with it. And lastly, this week I wanted to share a little bit of a personal thing. So this week I took an impromptu trip to Chicago. A close friend of mine was in a situation where it seemed like our friendship would be helpful. And so I shifted my work hours a bit and I drove up from Indianapolis. I wanted to bring this up just to say this. What's the point of freedom that you create from building your own thing, your own lifestyle, if you can't use it to help those closest to you in times of need? As founders, and particularly bootstrappers, we are under intense pressure. We have massive heights to climb to find the success that we're after, and it can take every bit of focus we have. But precisely because of that, and the long period of time it may take to find that success, we can't ignore life as it's happening in the moment. If my kid has a thing at school, I'm going to be there. If there's an opportunity for me to be helpful to my spouse, I'm going to do it. And then disclaimer, this is admittedly easier for me to say right now this time around with the success of Mailshake at my back. In my earlier days when I was freelancing on the side and desperately grinding to get maybe a max of 3 to 4 hours per day of work done, I had many more limits on my ability to execute on this philosophy. But despite the better situation that I'm in right now, I'm still fighting for every breath on this journey. And even with those pressures, nothing is going to stop me from being a good partner, a good dad, and a good friend. So go hard, push hard, but take care of yourself and the people closest to you. Don't let yourself lose yourself. All right, guys, that's it for this week. So what is next? I'm going to continue back on the marketing and outreach push to see how I can drive people to Dropboard. And in my dessert hours, which are the occasional late nights that I pull where I allow myself to do whatever I want, I'll probably dive deeper into these AI revelations and explore how I can make Dropboard an absolutely amazing app. Thank you guys so much for following. I will see you next week.